Hello Year 10, welcome to the week beginning the 29th of June. This week we are focusing your attention on Section A, Language Paper 1. Just a reminder that you need to do all answers printed, please, in a Word document as far as you can. If you are unable to do this, if you could then take a picture of your work on a lined piece of paper. No Snapchat screenshots, please, just either a Word document or in your book or online paper. Okay, just a quick thank you to those of you who are always handing work in on time. And please remember the deadline for this will be next Sunday, the 5th of July at 5 o'clock. So you do have a week to do this. Okay, reminders is that you have an hour for Section A on Language Paper 1, 40 marks available. Question 1 is 4 marks for listing 4 things that you discover about a particular section from the extract. Question 2 is always 8 marks, a language analysis question. Question 3 is structure analysis, 8 marks as well. And question 4 is always your opinion, how far you agree with something, 20 marks available. So obviously you do build throughout the questions. As you build throughout the exam paper, you'll obviously be reading each question and then referring back to the extract each time. So basically by the end of the first 4 reading questions, you would have read the extract at least 4 times. Okay, so Language Paper 1, question 1 is looking at this particular extract from the Word document that I've also attached for you. So you need to reread, once you've read it in full, you reread the question and then you reread the extract in front of you, please. And the question is to list 4 things we learn about the gymnasium from this extract. So not about the women or about anything to do with dancers, but the actual gymnasium in itself and what you can discover about what was inside it, or what it smelt like, or what's around it, that will help you to answer the question. Only 4 marks available, so only need 4 things. Possible answers then, you could have had varnished wood floor, basketball nets, balcony around it, it smelled bad but elaborate on the smell, find the evidence from the text, and dances used to be held there. Question 2 is you're testing your ability to closely analyse language and its effect. So again, pause the video now. Okay, so you've obviously now had a look at some of the techniques available in terms of things you can analyse. Obviously, I'm not going to read each one for you, but just a reminder of the following things. Alliteration, personification, repetition, onomatopoeia, metaphor, imagery, simile, emotive language, adverbs, verbs, adjectives and semantic field. Just make sure that you are familiar with the definitions in order to be able to analyse them and find them in the text. So question 2 will always look something like this. Look in detail at this extract from lines whatever to whatever of the source. The lines are very, very important. If you don't look at the particular line references they're asking for, you do not get the marks and you just waste your time. And the question is always something like, how does the writer use language to describe something? You could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms. Now, you will always be given these 3 bullet points. They will always be part of the exam question, and obviously the 8-mark reminder. And you can use the bullet points to guide your response, but you don't need to structure the response by them. Don't just label the features as you find them, so don't just say the writer uses alliteration. Think about why the writer has used these language devices, what the effect is. Using basic generic comments such as it creates a picture in our heads is way too vague and will not get you the marks that you need to pass this exam. And as always, as I said a second ago, please make sure you refer to the line references given to make sure you're looking for the right extracts and you're looking for the right ideas. So the extract in front of you, okay, is what we're focusing on today. It's taken obviously from the longer extract that I've given you as a Word document. And the question is, how is language used to suggest that women have no control over their situation? And again, you could include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, and sentence forms, 8 marks. So have a read, pause the video, Okay, so you should now have read the extract in front of you. And before you start answering your question 2, you need to label any language techniques used in this extract that suggest that women have no control over the situation. Again, refer back to this slide if you need to. But otherwise, start analysing and labelling any language techniques. So make notes, write all over your extract. If you've got it open as a Word document, you could use the highlight tool to start highlighting and labelling. But you need to start by labelling before you can answer the question. Now, the question obviously is, how is language used to suggest that women have no control? And this is the first paragraph as a model answer for this question. You need at least 2 to 3 paragraphs, so don't just think this one adapted, changed slightly is going to give you all your answer. It's not. This is a starting point for you. So I've written, Atwood suggests that women have no control over their situation through the powerless verbs she uses. The use of the verbs yearned and tried shows the desperation of the women for a different life, but suggests that they cannot achieve that. The author doesn't use many verbs, which shows the women are not able to do very much as they do not have the freedom. Once you've obviously looked at my model answer and adapted the first one or used it or not at all, you can ignore it completely if you want, but do your own. There are also some sentence starters on this slide that you could also use then to carry on your paragraph 2 and possibly paragraph 3. So, but remember, it's your analysis of the language that's going to get you the marks, not just picking out the language devices. Question 3 is always about the whole of the source. You need to reread the whole thing or refer back to it at least. This text, it will always say this text is from the beginning, middle, end of a novel. In our case, it's from the beginning of a novel. It's from The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And it will always say this question. How has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning of the source, how and why the writer changes the focus as the source develops, any other structural features that interest you. So in simple terms, you are required to examine what happens where and why. Asking yourself the question, how does the reading about this at this point add to my understanding of the text as a whole? Again, you can use the bullet points to guide your response, but you don't need to structure your response by them. Some key terminology for you. Again, pause the video. And then need to look at the extract in front of you, which you've also got as a Word document. So I'm not going to reread it for you, but just a reminder to look at the whole thing and start thinking about how the text starts, what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning, how and why the writer changes the focus as the extract develops, and any other structural features that interest you. Some sentence starters there for you to follow if you need to. Okay, this is my model response. Again, don't copy it. You can use it, you can adapt it, you can ignore it completely if you wish. But this is how to start. At the beginning of the source, the author has a slow pace with lots of complex sentences. It is describing the gymnasium where everything seems normal. In the third paragraph, the author quickens the pace with more short, simple sentences to show the panic the women are feeling at being trapped. The reader begins to suspect that things aren't as they appeared in the first paragraph. Furthermore, the perspective shifts from the narrator talking about herself to talking about the group with we. Then the focus shifts and narrows to the guns, angels and guards. This sudden violent contrast to the earlier pleasant gymnasium description is shocking for the reader. Later in the extract, the author shifts back to the more hopeful idea of the beginning, with the women's names being given to the reader. Question 4 is always, to what extent do you agree? It's your opinion. For this question, you need to respond to a statement and say how far you agree with it or not. Now remember, when an examiner marks a paper, they only see one response at a time, so you are able to repeat ideas from earlier in your paper if you need to. So from question 2 and question 3, you can adapt those responses you've already done to suit this question. You must only refer to the lines that they tell you, and I'll give you those in a second. You can talk about language and structure in this question, but make sure you focus on the statement if you're analysing the language and structure and how it suits the statement you're given. And finally, you don't have to agree with the statement. You can consider different sides of the argument. So this is your question for question 4 this week. Focus this part of your answer on the second half of the source from lines 10 to the end. And this is your focus. A teacher, having read this section of the text, has said Atwood does an excellent job of setting the scene and suggesting the women have no control over their lives. To what extent do you agree? And you will always have these 3 bullet points. In your response, you should write about your own impressions of the characters, evaluate how the writer has created these impressions using methods, language devices, structural features, and support your ideas with quotations from the text, 20 marks. So before you attack and answer question 4, I need you to do the following 5 things. You need to split the statement into 2 parts. So you've got Atwood does an excellent job of setting the scene, but you've also got the second half of the statement which suggests that women have no control. So you've got excellent job, no control. Split it into 2 parts. Okay? Then I want you to go back to your Word document and start looking for quotes to support each part. And then think about subject terms to support each quote. So look at the quote. Does it have a metaphor or a simile? What's the effect of that? How far does that make you agree with the fact that she does an excellent job? How does that create a good setting? How does that suggest the women have no control? Then match the quote to either part A or part B. So either excellent job of setting the scene or the women have no control over their lives. And then use your language evaluation sheet to develop your answer. And finally, just some sentence starters to help you to answer this question. I agree with the statement because when the author uses the quote, it shows, which makes the reader think. However, I also disagree because this is seen in the quote. Through this quote, the reader feels whatever. And in my opinion, because when the author uses technique, this shows. So think about the language devices. Think about how the reader would react, what it makes the reader think and feel, and what the effect is that Atwood is trying to achieve. Because remember, these are all constructs, they are all characters, they are not real people. And just before I finish off for today, just a reminder, Year 10, that if you need anything and you're not sure about something regarding this week's work, you can always message me on Teams chat and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Please be mindful that there is a lot going on. You know, I've got 5 other classes. So if you do need anything, I am available, but it may be that I read something and then get back to you slightly later on, but it will always be within a 24-hour period at the latest. Most of the time I do answer straight away, but please remember that while I am there all the time, I do also have other classes and other questions and emails and so on, so I will always answer as soon as I possibly can. Take care and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.